The morning he walked back into our small church, I was polishing the silver candle stands. Sunlight poured through the stained glass, spilling colors across the wooden floor. When I looked up and saw him taller now, older, and with a quiet sadness in his eyes, I froze. It had been almost 20 years since Luke Matthews stole from this place, and from all of us. Before continue, please subscribe our channel and like our video. I've lived in Willow Creek my whole life. It's one of those towns where everyone knows who baked which pie for the fair, and who borrowed whose ladder. Our church has always been the heart of this little town, old wooden pews. Choir practice every Wednesday, and potluck dinners where nobody ever went home hungry. Back then, I was the choir director and the treasurer, the one keeping track of every dollar that came in from donations. We weren't rich, but we took pride in giving what little we could. And Luke was just a boy then, 17, maybe 18. He had that restless spark in his eyes, like the world was too small for him. His mother, Clara, sang in my choir. She worried about him constantly. "He's got a good heart," she'd say, twisting her apron. "Just makes bad choices." He helped around the church sometimes, setting up chairs, running errands. People trusted him. I trusted him. Then one Sunday morning, after service, we discovered the donation box was gone. Completely gone. We found it later, broken open behind the tool shed. Almost $600 money meant for the new church roof had disappeared. And just like that, Luke and his mother were gone too. No goodbye, no apology, just gone. I still remember standing in the empty choir room, holding one of his old hymn sheets in my hand, feeling that dull ache in my chest. I told myself I forgave him. But the truth is I didn't, not really. A few months later, a letter arrived. Short, messy handwriting, Luke's. He didn't confess. He didn't even say, "I'm sorry." Just a few vague lines about needing to leave. And I'm doing what he had to do. That was it. And the betrayal sat in my heart for years like a stone. Every time rain leaked through that old roof, I thought of that boy. And what he'd done. People eventually stopped talking about it, but I never forgot. In small towns, forgiveness is preached easily, but practiced slowly. Time passed. Clara came back a few years later, without Luke. She said he was trying to start over somewhere far away. She looked older, thinner. Guilt seemed to follow her everywhere. I welcomed her back, because that's what we do here. We take care of our own. But when she mentioned Luke, I always changed the subject. I told myself I was too busy, but deep down, I just didn't want to talk about him. Years rolled on. The roof got fixed slowly, with bake sales and quiet sacrifices. Children grew up. People grew older. Life went on. Then one spring morning, Pastor Jim fell ill, and I stepped in to keep the church running. That's when the letter arrived. It was from a charity in Chicago, a donation made, in honor of Willow Creek Church from L. Matthews. My breath caught. L. Matthews. Luke's last name. At first, I thought it was coincidence, but a week later, he walked through our doors. He looked different, older mid-30s, maybe. But there was something deeper in his eyes. A stillness. Humility I hadn't seen before. "Mrs. Green," he said softly when he saw me. I hadn't heard that voice in 20 years. I came to make things right. I didn't know what to say. My hands trembled as I set the cloth down. He reached into his bag and pulled out an envelope. Inside was a check. $12,000 for the church roof, he said quietly. I stared at the numbers, my throat tightening. It was 10 times what he'd taken, and before I could speak, he said, "It's not from guilt. It's from gratitude. This church saved me even when I didn't deserve saving." That evening, I called an emergency meeting with the church committee. Some didn't want to accept it. "He stole from us," one man said. "You can't wash that away with money," and I understood him, but when I looked at Luke sitting quietly in the corner, hands clasped, Eyes down, I didn't see a thief. I saw a man carrying years of weight. I asked him to tell us what happened. He said that after he ran away, he ended up on the streets. He'd taken the church money, thinking it would fix his life, but it destroyed it. He was caught stealing again and went to jail. When he got out, a church in Chicago took him in. They helped him find work, get clean and start over. I promised God, he said, that if I ever stood on my own 2 feet again, I'd return what I took and more. The room fell silent, the same silence I'd felt 20 years ago. But this time, it was filled with grace, not anger. We voted that night, and we accepted his donation. The following Sunday, the church was full. Word had spread Luke Matthews was back. Some faces were curious, some angry, some hopeful. He stood before everyone, his voice trembling but steady. I was young and foolish, he said. I took something sacred, but God gave me a second chance, and I want to give this church the same. Then he handed Pastor Jim, who had recovered enough to return, the check. No one clapped, no one cheered, but one by one, people stood. Clara, his mother, was crying, and I was too, because it wasn't about the money anymore. It was about seeing redemption walk right through our doors. Months later, the new roof was finished. Luke helped paint the ceiling, showing up early, leaving late, never asking for recognition. He moved back to Willow Creek quietly, opened a small carpentry shop, started volunteering with the youth group. Sometimes, I see him sitting in the back pew during evening service, head bowed, hands folded. He doesn't sing loudly, but I can tell he means every word. I've learned something from all this. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, but it can rebuild what was broken. And sometimes, the people who hurt us the most are the ones who teach us what grace really looks like. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more calm, emotional stories about forgiveness and second chances.